I was reading this article from CBR.com about how Paramount Plus is dismantling Star Trek after a historic 9-year streaming run. And this article doesn't really say anything you haven't heard before, except it makes one key point that I want to discuss with you guys, the ultimate Star Trek fans. I'm writer-producer Trader Bubba, writer in Hollywood, with something to say. This here's cousin Emmy, and this is Bubba Breaks Sci-Fi.
This baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious shit.
Whoa. Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream?
So say we all.
Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes. He saved 800 lives.
Engage.
Bubba Breaks Sci-Fi.
This article states that Star Trek failed to create new fans, which I have to say really isn't completely true. But they go on to say, while most fans are adamant about supporting any new seasons of Star Trek, what's more important is spreading the message around the franchise. There's an evidence shift for Paramount away from multiple seasons of Star Trek every year, perhaps towards a more focused outreach. The reason Paramount has moved away from the franchise as a brand builder is that it is an unreliable source of future growth. And this is the part I want to discuss. That Star Trek as a franchise, as a brand builder, is an unreliable source of future growth. Star Trek, especially Star Trek movies, have always been a roller coaster in terms of financial success. But that's why especially after Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which was a massive success, the budgets kept getting smaller and smaller. Luckily with Star Trek VI, even with the small budget, they still got an amazing film. But what saved Star Trek VI was the fact that Star Trek The Next Generation had been out and become massively successful. And they wanted to do one more feature film with the original crew before eventually leading to a Next Generation movie a few years later. So this movie got a little bit bigger budget. But the point is that with Star Trek, especially as a feature more than a series, it was never the cash cow that a lot of fans think that it was. It was always a bit hit or miss. And Star Trek to me works best when, quite frankly, it's under financial pressure. Yeah, sometimes the special effects get a little wonky, but Star Trek has always operated under tight fiscal restraints. And what that forces is better storytelling, because you become less reliant on the spectacle and much more reliant on telling a better story. And this is where Star Trek really shines. If you look at the massive success of the 2008-2009 J.J. Abrams reboot, you can see that there was an audience for Star Trek, but they spent $140 million, give or take, on the production budget alone. That's not taking into account marketing. And honestly, a lot of those times when you hear what the budget is, it's actually a little conservative. It's probably another $20-30 million that you're not really being told about. The problem is after the success of the first J.J. Abrams movie, they really couldn't recapture it, even from a writer's perspective. For the sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness, they immediately went after the nostalgia berries, trying to bring back Khan. And it's like, really, if there's one thing you don't want to touch, it's probably the most popular movie in the entire Star Trek franchise. And keep in mind, there had been 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 movies up to this point, and you want to try to improve the most popular one and sort of reboot it? Does that make a lot of sense to you? Does that sound a bit risky, or do you want to do something that's fresh and original and still adventurous? No, I don't hate Star Trek Into Darkness. There's a lot of great stuff in this movie. But man, I was so disappointed that they went down that stupid nostalgia reboot territory with this new cast, the new effect. You know, they could have done something really special with this franchise. And there was the writers in the studio that really effed it up. I also refuse to believe that shows like Star Trek Lower Decks didn't bring in a ton of new fans. You know, the problem is that they're not operating based on metrics of classic network television. The way streamers operate, at least Netflix, and I'm assuming Paramount is probably similar, is it's not about the number of views, it's about the number of new subscribers that your show can bring. So if you ever wondered why your favorite Netflix show, which is popular and seems to be doing well and getting views, it might even be popping up on that like today's top 5 list or whatever Netflix has, and yet it still gets canceled after 1 or 2 seasons, it's because the show isn't bringing in new subscribers. I just had a conversation yesterday. I have a TV show with a huge sports league attached to it, and we're running into some speed bumps because there's a similar show coming out on a network. And one of the producers is like, man, is there any chance of getting this to Netflix? I said, listen, I'm not going to say no to a deal right now, but Netflix, number one, they don't promote. And also, two, your metrics for success are based on the amount of new subscribers you bring in. I don't want my show to be responsible for finding the last 10 people on earth that don't have access to Netflix. And I think Paramount is sort of facing the same issues. They've had a lot of problems maintaining subscribers. A lot of people subscribe, binge, and cancel. That's why they gave away their year subscription for so cheap last year. And if you go to cancel it right now, as I just did, they offer you another pretty decent discount for keeping it for a year. And Paramount Plus is reporting a profit as of 2025. That was the first year they showed a profit, but I don't know how much, and is it going to be maintained? Unfortunately, Paramount's not producing a lot of new content right now, and I think that's going to hinder their financial success with the streaming service. This video is brought to you by TraderBubba.com, where I've got all sorts of fun new stuff, including caca bacon. You can smell the difference, and that's the caca. Check out the Cousin Emmy page, my wife's favorite, the acai berry supplements. All proceeds do go to the GoFundMe for Cousin Emmy, whose husband was in the hospital recently, just before she's about to go into the hospital and give birth to their firstborn. I'm trying to get 100 people to donate on the GoFundMe, and if you donate, leave a comment on the GoFundMe page, and I'll reach out to you and send you this Cousin Emmy refrigerator magnet. The success of Strange New Worlds, which helped push it to get at least a final season, is really based on the fact that it's pretty similar to old school Star Trek. And unfortunately, the reason this show got canceled is because of Paramount parting ways with the showrunner, Alex Kurtzman, which I know a lot of you are saying yay, but it also cost us more of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The business model for Star Trek shows on streaming is just so completely different than the old school network style shows. And that's part of the problem, because they're spending $100 million. You're getting less than half of the product, right? You're only getting 10 episodes versus 20 plus. And the only revenue you have to rely on is subscriptions and some ad revenue, since they make you watch it with ads now. But I refuse to believe that Star Trek Strange New Worlds didn't pull in new audience. It was easily the most successful Star Trek series on the platform. And finally, what I think this article does capture best is those who did sign up for these new adventures haven't been convinced to tune in for every spinoff. As a result, Paramount has stretched the franchise without capturing a mainstream audience with many of its projects. This is a major shift in strategy for the brand, and one that may only worsen in the coming years. I don't think it's going to worsen. I think if they get the right showrunner behind the franchise, which they're not going to do for episodic for a while, they're going back to movies. But I think if they get a good showrunner with some fresh new ideas that pays homage to the classic Star Trek, I think they will recapture the essence of it. But they need to go back to the other more network style structure of at least give us 15 episodes, reduce the budget per episode, stretch it out to 15, make it work, and just tell better stories. And get back to what makes Star Trek Star Trek. Star Trek has always been a space adventure show with either telling great sci-fi stories or adventures, something. And unfortunately, because of the ability to spend more per episode on the streaming platforms, we've gotten style over substance. And Star Trek has always performed best when it gave us substance over style. Even Star Trek Voyager, which, fans are a tad divided on. I think most of us have come to appreciate it. Even Star Trek Voyager was a classic, fun, adventure sci-fi show. And it's not without its problems, but it's a fun show. And with 20-some episodes in a season, it's something that audiences could connect with. Maybe not on a week-by-week basis, but as an overall experience. And again, we've gotten away from that. And that's why audiences aren't connecting with every version of Star Trek. First of all, every spinoff of the new Star Trek shows have been so vastly different. Star Trek Discovery is vastly different from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Star Trek Lower Decks is an animated comedy show, vastly different from every other Star Trek show we've ever seen. And that's not a bad thing, but when every single show is completely different, they don't really feel connected. And when some are so hit or miss, especially when they're missing, why are people going to get excited about your next spinoff like Section 31? And then when you really go to take a swing with something like Picard and really go after those nostalgia berries, then you give us a weak story. It's just swing and a miss after swing and a miss. It's really not hard to figure out what makes Star Trek The Next Generation and the following series successful. It came down to the writing, the characters, and the overall storytelling. It was the story. Tell us a good story. Will Star Trek ever return to the glory days that was once network television storytelling? To be honest, I don't think so. It would take an executive with a real set of cojones to greenlight a show that is cheaper per episode, that has a lighter look to it like this does, and to give us more episodes per season and ask for less per episode to give us more. Does that make sense? I think the network television style that launched Star Trek, epic battle, what makes Star Trek best is the storytelling. Guys, that's my rant. This article set me off a little bit and I want to discuss with you guys. Leave me your comments down below and let me know what you think. As always, special shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much. And don't go away just yet. I got another video popping up right here. In this video, this video right here got a lot of comments. You're going to want to check it out.
Yeah, Bubba breaks out.